Hello and welcome. In this video, we're going to be discussing polynomial long division. So I've written out our steps to the right here. Before we begin by following those steps, let's set this up as a long division problem. So the guy that I'm dividing by, this 5x plus 6, is going to go outside. He's called my divisor. And then the other guy, the 15x to the third minus 7x squared minus 10x plus 19 is going to go underneath. He's called my dividend. So now I'm going to start following the steps that we have over here to the right. So the first step is to compare first outside term to first inside term. I'm going to do that step in green. So what I'm looking for specifically here is 5x, my first outside term, times what gives me my first inside term? Well, in this case, it would be 3x squared. Why is it 3x squared? Well, 5 times 3 is 15. X times x squared is x to the third. So I'm done with the first step. The second step then is I want to distribute to the divisor. So I'm going to do this step in red. What I mean by distribute is I want to take this guy that I just came up with and I want to multiply him to both terms in my divisor. So 3x squared times 5x is 15x to the third. 3x squared times 6 is 18x squared. Okay, well now I want to see basically how much of my original polynomial is left over after I subtract this stuff off. So the third step is just a clever way, or maybe a rhyming way, of saying that I want to subtract these two guys from my original polynomial. So the way we're going to subtract is, the expression is draw the line, change the signs, and add. So I'm going to do this step in blue. So I'm going to draw my line, I'm going to change the signs of these two red guys. So the first guy becomes negative, becomes its opposite. The second guy becomes negative, and now I just go straight down. So 15x to the third and negative 15x to the third, those guys just become 0. Negative 7x squared and negative 18x squared is negative 25x squared. And we've completed step 3. Step 4 is to bring down the remaining terms. So I'm just going to do this step in black. So we've got 2 remaining terms. I just bring them both down. And now I go back up to step 1 and I repeat. So we'll do step 1 in green again. So I'm looking for, okay, what times 5x gives me negative 25x squared? Well, I know that 5x times negative 5x would give me negative 25x squared. So I'm done with step 1 again. So if I go on to step 2, I want to take this guy, negative 5x, and multiply him to both terms in my divisor. So here we go. We'll do that in red again. Negative 5x times 5x is negative 25x squared. Negative 5x times 6 is minus 30x. Okay, now I'm to step 3 again, so I'm going to draw my line, change my sign, so both of these guys become positive this time when I change their signs, and now I add going straight down. So if I combine these two guys, I get 0. If I combine my next two guys, negative 10x and 30x is 20x. And now I'm on step 4 again, bring down the remaining terms. Okay, it looks like we can go one more cycle through. So 5x times what would give me 20x? That's the question. Well, in this case, it would just be 4. So again, I'm going to do this step in green. Now I'm on step 2. So distribute this 4 to both terms in my divisor. So 4 times 5x is 20x. 4 times 6 is positive 24. I'm on step 3 then, draw the line, change the signs, and add. So if I do that, 20x and negative 20x becomes 0. 19 and negative 24 is negative 5. And that's as far as I can go, because there's really nothing that I could multiply 5x by that would give me just negative 5. Well, I should say nothing where I don't have an x in the denominator position. So since there's really nothing that I could no term without having an x in the denominator that I can multiply 5x by to get me to negative 5, this guy is what we call the remainder. So the guy up here in green is what we call the quotient. The guy that we have down here in blue is what we call the remainder. So they can ask you for several forms in terms of your answer. Sometimes they'll just ask you to state the quotient and state the remainder. Other times they'll ask you to write it out using this form. So they'll have you write out the quotient, which is 3x squared minus 5x plus 4. And then one way we could write the remainder is we could write it as whatever it is, in this case negative 5 over whatever the divisor was, which in our case was 5x plus 6. So either form is acceptable, it just depends on what exactly they're looking for. Okay, here's another problem for you to try. Pause the video and then restart after you've given it a shot. Okay, so here we go. So underneath we've got 6x to the third plus 22x squared plus 27x plus 9. Outside we have 3x plus 2. Okay, so here we go. First outside term comparing with first inside term. So 3x times what gives me 6x to the third? Well, in this case it would be 2x squared. Okay, now I want to take this guy and multiply him by both terms in my divisor. So 2x squared times 3x is 6x to the third. 2x squared times 2 is 4x squared. Draw my line. I want to change the signs of those two guys I just got and add going straight down. So 6x to the third and negative 6x to the third becomes 0. 22x squared plus negative 4x squared is 18x squared. Last step, bring everything down. And now we begin another division cycle. So compare first outside to first inside term. 3x times what gives me 18x squared? Well, in this case, it'll be 6x. So 6x times 3x, I want to take this guy and multiply him by both terms in my divisor. 6x times 3x is 18x squared. 6x times 2 is 12x. Draw my line, change my signs, and add going straight down. 18x squared and negative 18x squared become 0. 27x and negative 12x is 15x. And then bring down what's left. Okay, let's go one more cycle through. So 3x times what gives me 15x? Well, in this case it'll be plus 5. So 5 times 3x is 15x. 5 times 2 is 10. Draw my line, change my signs, and add. 15x and negative 15x is 0. 9 plus negative 10 is negative 1. And that's as far as I can go. So negative 1 is called my remainder. 2x squared plus 6x plus 5 is my quotient. So remember, there's a couple ways to express your answer. One is just by stating your quotient remainder. Another way is to write out your answer as the quotient plus the remainder over the divisor. So what we were dividing by was 3x plus 2.